Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be discussing a topic which a lot of people have asked, and at the same time, it's a little bit of comic book history as well. For most of the community, Xavier School version of Cyclops still remains one of the carbon copy reskin versions of early years of the game, which isn't exactly the most favorable liked champion that is in everybody's roster. And as well, some of you may be asking the question as to why the heck he's a villain. Especially considering that Cyclops' blue team is a hero-based champion. Hashtag WTF. This can be very briefly summed up with this statement here. After murdering Xavier under control of the Phoenix Force, Summers has gone from exemplar to pariah, founding his own underground mutant school away from his one-time allies. But is that really enough to give you a full picture of this particular character and the reasons behind it? Well, what I'm going to do in this video is go in depth on this subject. And don't worry, Lost, for I will provide you with key information and you will feel lost no more. You will find out as to why this character is a villain. Now, there's a lot of information to go over. I've put links in the description to the sources that I've referenced, which does showcase the movement from the character, from the events that happen from Avengers versus X-Men, right to the point that he then dons this particular suit, the involvement with Phoenix 5, and also the murdering of Charles Xavier. So let's dive into this. Now, how does a catalyst spark so much of a rivalry between Avengers as well as X-Men? Well, it all stems from the Phoenix. Now, as you know, Phoenix is an almighty being of power, and how this really works is that the Avengers and the X-Men were teaming up on a mission which basically involved the Extinction Team, which is led by Cyclops. Upon hearing that Hope Summers was looking to track down Phoenix, it basically meant that, they started to fall out over this and started to fight. The Avengers wanted to take Hope Summers into custody, and Cyclops was like, no, I'm having none of this. As the fight broke out, it meant that the X-Men retreated and Hope Summers got away. Hope decided to go to the moon in order to meet Phoenix head on. Unfortunately, it was a little bit of an ambush as the Avengers were waiting. Iron Man tried to intervene and in his attempt dispersed Phoenix's powers into several members of the X-Men. This then created the Phoenix 5, consisting of Cyclops, Colossus, Namor, Emma Frost, and Magic. Very early on, it was quite noticeable that Cyclops, as well as the others of Phoenix Force, were going to use these powers for good, felt very much in control of those powers. But as we know, and as we learned from films as well as comic books, power can easily corrupt, and especially when forces are at play that you don't understand, you can find yourself doing things that you morally would never do. Acting on these powers and being completely out of control, thinking his intentions were right, he killed Charles Xavier. Now, this is very much up to interpretation by a lot of people, whether they feel that this was a sacrifice by Charles Xavier in order to change the course of what Cyclops was going to do, as well as all other mutants after this point. This is the point that the fan base don't really agree on whether or not he is a martyr to the cause or he is indeed a villain based on what has happened. Now, there's a new mutant race that is growing in population as the result of whatever happened from the Phoenix Force. So he needs to get himself released, and indeed gets himself released from prison, and we have to see what happens next. The next thing is, well, it starts a tapestry of weird stuff happening. So the whole kind of mutant gene was kind of re-enhanced with people, and he found that a lot more younger mutants were around the world. And in particular, he runs in with a younger version of himself, as well as a younger version of Jean Grey, which is very weird, but again, we've got to roll with this. It's comic books, so they do get a little bit weird from time to time. Either way, they start off a mutant rebellion. During his mutant rebellion, he had a lot of trouble convincing others of his positive means, with most of him seeing as a villain, but to him, he was indeed doing something good for the mutant kind, trying to convince people like Captain America that what he was doing was good for the world. And that team has some very weird run-ins, in particular running into a future version of that particular team, which basically say you've got to do X, Y, and Z, otherwise it's going to change the future. You know, that old storyline that has been in a lot of key films, Days of Future Past, and also Avengers Endgame. And this all comes to a head when Cyclops a while ago created Utopia, which is meant to be a safe haven for mutants. Then it was a case that some SHIELD members went missing there, and they sent the X-Men to investigate. who then found them and invited them to join the new Xavier school. And then the ending of this whole story arc is Cyclops reading the will and testament of Charles Xavier, who basically left everything to Scott Summers, who then decided that, well, I'm riddled with guilt, I'm going to give all these possessions to the Jean Grey School. So from now on, it's the Jean Grey School of the Gifted. There's a lot more information that meets the eye. Links are in the description below. It will take you to every source that we've mentioned today. And as well, make sure to have your opinion in the comment section about what are your thoughts towards this character. For a lot of the fandom, they do believe that this character's kind of motivations weren't exactly in keeping with what we've known for a long time. And me personally, I like the idea of changing it up. I thought this was quite good, especially because nowadays we haven't revisited this, and it just feels that we haven't really done that because people's backlash. And I think this is the time that people are open to change, that I'd like to see something different when it comes to writing comic books in the future about characters and their motivations and the whole type of mantra as a character. Either way, I hope I've explained the whole kind of process of Cyclops' moves from being a very much push towards the Extinction Team and what they were trying to achieve, their falling out with the Avengers, the stuff that led to the Phoenix Force, and the unfortunate, very unfortunate killing of Charles Xavier, and what that did for the character to change his whole kind of motivation, which they didn't really go forward and touch upon in future comic book issues, and kind of said that that was a thing, we're never going to revisit that again. But in any case, what are your thoughts? And hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe for more Marvel Contest of Champions, as well as comic book related content, and I shall catch you in the next one. Bye bye for now.